Will you be playing video games until your dying days? What is your end game with your video game collection? I seriously want to know because this is something that I have thought about a lot in the recent days with my collection as it grows and shrinks, as I refine things, as I add things to my backlog. I'd love to know what your thought process is. Let's get into it. What is the end game for video game collecting these days? What is your end game? How old are you now, and how old were you when you started collecting video games? For me, I was a gamer back in the day when I was a kid, and then I kind of walked away from it, and then I came back to gaming and collecting as a hobby much later in life, in my 30s, and now I have amassed a huge collection of a lot of the games that I wanted to play as a kid and never got around to, and a lot of the games that I did play as a kid and want to go back to. And that collection keeps growing and growing as new systems come out and new games come out. I've focused on some retro things that I really love, but also some new things that are ongoing that keep coming out, like Nintendo games that I absolutely love. And as I do that, the collection and the backlog grows and grows and grows. And you have that thought in your mind that, sure, maybe I'm busy right now with jobs and family and other commitments and things like that, but someday I will be able to finally sit down and play these games. And I think that's what a lot of collectors think as they add to that backlog. My backlog is not as big as some other people's, but I definitely have hundreds of games that I don't have time to play right now. I still do play games every day, but often what I'm playing are things that are fairly current, that are coming out. I've been playing Metroid Dread. Of course, I'm playing Animal Crossing again, as we're coming into the announcement for the Animal Crossing DLC, which is coming out in a couple of weeks. I'm pretty excited for that. Excuse me. I just picked up Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which is a game I've been wanting to play since the Wii U. I picked it up on the Switch, and I'm really enjoying that. But then all of those other games on the backlog, they just keep getting pushed back a little further and a little further, with that intention in mind that you're going to be able to play those games someday. So that brings us to the question, what is the end game for your collection? Do you see yourself playing video games when you're retired, when you're 60, 70, 80, 90 years old, should you be lucky enough to live that long? There's always the conversation about things like dexterity and eyesight and things like that as to whether you will physically be able to play some of these more challenging games as you get older and your reflexes degrade and your eyesight degrades and things like that. Heaven forbid, this is reality, right? We have to look at these things. So, I know for myself that I do not have the reflexes and the gaming ability now that a lot of children that are 9 years old have, that can kick my butt in Smash Bros or whatever, right? There's something about those fresh young neurons firing in your head that keeps things working really, really well. And as you get older, some of that ability diminishes in some cases. Now, some people claim to be much more proficient at things like Dark Souls or whatever now than they maybe were 10 or 15 years ago when the series came out. But at some point, that's something that everyone is going to have to think about. So, what is that end game for your collection? Are you collecting for the distant future? Do you intend to get around to these games at some point now? And are these collectibles, these games and strategy guides and things like that you are collecting, are these something that your kids are going to be interested in, that you can pass down to somebody, to leave to somebody in your will? Or is this something that is really only for you and your kids really don't care? In a lot of cases, a lot of people's kids don't care about physical games anymore. That's just old stuff, Dad. You know, we don't need that old stuff. We've got all these Netflix-style services like Game Pass. Who needs physical cartridges and stuff like that, right? So what's going to happen to our collections when we get older? Is there an end game? Is there a point where you figure that you have accomplished everything that you want to accomplish in the collection? You have played everything that you want to play from your collection, and you're ready to sell it? Give it away? Do you start getting things graded and treat them as an investment? Do you put things in storage and just forget about them, as so many people I know do? And then, you know, somebody's going to dig that out of an attic at an estate sale someday and say, hallelujah, I've got $1 million worth of retro games that have been in an attic for 40 years. So what is that end game? Can you see yourself geriatric in a wheelchair, 80 years old, in an old folks home maybe? Or in your children's basement as the roles reversed? You went from mom's basement to your own home and back to your children's basement. Do you see yourself still playing those games that you love so much right now when you're 80? I'd love to know in the comments. Comment down below where you see yourself in 20 or 30 or 40 years from now. Wherever you might be in life right now, I'd be super curious to know whether you think you'll still be a gamer and a collector when you're geriatric. Thanks so much for watching. Stay classy.